Welcome back to My Sports Compendium, where I take a look at some moments in sporting history and look at the relevant card stickers and tickets to help bring them to life. This is part of the Premier League series where I take a look at each Premier League season and revisit one particular moment in it. And today, we're pushing boundaries. Paolo Di Canio, a renowned maverick known for many things, but arguably best for the infamous events of Saturday 26th of September 1998. But first, a little bit of context. Di Canio had been brought up in Rome's Quarticciolo working class district and came through the ranks at his beloved Lazio and subsequently bounced around top Italian clubs for the next 7 years or so, never quite settling at any and often falling out with the top of the club's hierarchy. He moved from AC Milan to Celtic in the summer of 1996 following a falling out with Milan manager Fabio Capello. Di Canio scored on his debut against Kilmarnock, and although he was unable to prevent a relentless Rangers winning a 9th consecutive league title, he had an incredible season on a personal level. This sticker is one of two. He's got a classic portrait sticker from the SPFL 96-97. This is an action shot of him looking rather upset. Number 56, plain background. But as I was saying, he had an incredibly successful season on a personal level where he was named the Scottish Writers' Player of the Year for that year. So it looked like he had finally found his home, but unfortunately he fell out again with the club's hierarchy because an alleged new contract offer, an improved new contract, wasn't offered. So it was time for Di Canio to move on again, and this time the Premier League came calling and he moved south of the border to Sheffield Wednesday. In truth, Di Canio's first season at Sheffield Wednesday was reasonably successful on a personal level as well. The club had flirted with relegation. However, Ron Atkinson arrived on a short-term contract following the sacking of David Pleat and had stabilised the ship. Di Canio scored 12 goals in the Premier League with 5 assists and was again named the club's Player of the Year. Atkinson's short-term contract wasn't renewed and the promising young manager Danny Wilson took charge at Wednesday, and Di Canio was hoping to build on his previous season. Di Canio arrived in pre-season training 2 weeks later, having been afforded some extra time off, and despite theoretically being behind his teammates in his preparations for the new season, he was the fittest in the squad on his arrival back. For 1998-99, Merlin of course released their customary Premier League sticker album, and Di Canio has 3 stickers in the main album. I'm going to stand up actually because it's a bit easier, and I've decided to go through them backwards. He has the key player foil sticker, which as you can see is slightly spoilt in my album because poor Andy Hinchcliffe is having a bit of a Back to the Future moment where he's being erased from existence, and some of his stickers impressed upon Paolo over there. This is what the sticker looks like unspoilt. Very nice sticker. I mean, standard Merlin fare from the 1990s, but it really looks great, and it shows Di Canio skipping away from a tackle. And you can just see actually the same image is used for the Merlin Premier Gold 99 set, which is very similar to the 98 set, but again, quite solid photography, and I enjoy it very much. Just put those there out of view. Moving back, you have the sort of bread and butter portrait stickers, of which Di Canio has one here. You can see him. And I'm just going to get an unstuck version just to bring it better into focus. I'm not just saying it, I really think that the Merlin 99 stickers are probably my favourite portrait stickers of them all. And the reason for that is I think there's a perfect ratio. I sound just hearing myself. That there's a perfect ratio between face and kit. You've got the brilliant old school Sanderson logo, and I just love it. And you've also got some graphics where the owl's nickname is there. I just think this is an absolutely brilliant sticker. And I love it. Definitely, for me, my favourite. And then moving back, he has one last sticker, which is the top scorer sticker, that shows him celebrating a goal. And here you go. As we said, he scored 12 goals that season. And let me get another one. Unstuck. And you can see that he's celebrating a goal and he's revealing a Tasmanian devil vest. Now, a really pleasing rabbit hole that you can go down in the hobby is to pair up images such as this and the match in which they took place in. Now, the way I did this, which I think probably lots of people do, is I looked at, he's in his away shirt here, you can tell. So I looked at the Sheffield Wednesday kit history, saw that yellowy orange shirt was introduced for the 1998-99 season. Then I had a look at Wednesday fixtures and saw which games he'd scored in away from home. There was only one, the Tottenham away game. So I had a look to see if there's any highlights from that game, and lo and behold, Di Canio scores, and then he lifts up his shirt to reveal the Tasmanian Devil vest. And then something I like to do is to try and pair it with the ticket. So there you go. A ticket to that game where he did that celebration, which is quite cool and something I just like to do as a bit of fun. So that's how I spend my spare time. Although it must be said, finding the match in which the Tasmanian celebration occurred wasn't that difficult, as he didn't play many matches for Wednesday that season. The prior mentioned September 26th, 1998. Reigning champions Arsenal came to Hillsborough and Di Canio would make his final Wednesday appearance, all because of the push. The push that had reverberations around the world. This is an unused ticket to the match and one I really like. The watermark of the vintage Wednesday team portrait and the background of the owl, and I don't think anybody dislikes owls. I always swear hedgehogs and owls, at least in England, are the most universally adored creatures. And also Mecca Bingo. What more could you want on the ticket? I personally, I've got this in the plastic because I'm a bit of another animal, maybe not quite so universally loved. I'm a bit of a chicken. Because this stub is just coming off and I really would love to preserve it as an unused with stub still attached, but we'll see what happens. Old tickets tend to be a little bit temperamental. Let's pop that there. Now, as for the match itself, the first half have been a cagey affair, with the battle focusing on central midfield, with Wednesday's wily Wim Jonk doing his best to throw the world-class Patrick Vieira out of his stride. Just before half-time, after one cynical foul too many, Vieira snapped by hauling Jonk to the ground and the match had its first flashpoint. Unbeknownst to others, Di Canio, at least his version, was a good friend of Vieira's from their time together at Milan and ran over to try and calm his old teammate down. At least that's his version. But before he was able to reach the scrapping Jonk and Vieira, Martin Keown stepped in and caught Di Canio in the face with his elbow, most likely on purpose. From there, Di Canio saw red, metaphorically and then literally, and whilst in searing pain he kicked Keown in the shin, throttling him and then gouging his face, and Keown retaliated. The two were separated and referee Paul Alcock stepped in and brandished a red card to Di Canio. Upon learning of his fate, he petulantly shoved Alcock away from him and the referee had a prolonged and staggering fall to the floor. Sadly, Alcock is no longer with us now, having passed away from cancer in 2018. However, he said that there was no intended theatricality to the fall, but he had merely been off balance. Di Canio was clearly incensed as he walked off the pitch, but he said in interviews since that he knew what he'd done was stupid and he instantaneously regretted pushing Alcock. He said that they made peace in the tunnel at Stamford Bridge a few years later, before another Premier League match. Keown was also sent off on the recommendation of the linesman, and despite the absence of their talisman, astonishingly, Wednesday rallied to beat the champions 1-0 as a result of a late Lee Prisco goal. But following the match, though, very few people were speaking about, or to be honest, cared about the result, and a media storm ensued. From here, though, this is where things got very complex, and Di Canio became something of a pariah. Keown's red card was overturned soon after, laying the blame solely with Di Canio, and 25 years later it gives off the appearance of something of a xenophobic witch hunt amongst the media, and the hatchet job begun in earnest. Some referred to it as an act of violence and the most vicious attack seen on a match official on these shores. Now, it was clearly inadvisable. In my opinion, it was clearly inadvisable and very stupid, but violence, not for me. Wednesday's handling of the situation also left a lot to be desired, both from the manager Danny Wilson and at a boardroom level. The initial advice from Wednesday was for Di Canio to leave straight away for Italy until the whole furore died down. And although that appears reasonable from the outset, and I know I wasn't there, but again, Wednesday's handling just was pretty awful. I try and remain impartial, but it was awful. I mean, Di Canio was this persona non grata, and Wednesday, for all intents, they didn't really provide him with a defence for the FA hearing when he was hit with an 11-match ban. And as I said, he was being hounded by the press, and Di Canio apparently didn't really hear from Sheffield Wednesday for a month, when they then got back into contact with him with a view to him going back into training. They were expecting him to return, and they then claimed he'd gone AWOL and they didn't really know where he was. This was a bit bizarre when considering that journalists were camped out of his house and hounding him even in Italy, British journalists, not really a surprise, and Wednesday were claiming all the while they didn't know where he was. Di Canio described that the events were taking a huge toll on his mental health, and he was suffering from serious depression and anxiety throughout November 1998. He told the club this and provided them with a medical certificate that he was in no fit state to travel due to the acute distress, yet the club continued to fine him for being absent. The insinuation was that Di Canio was malingering and he had been provided with some sort of dodgy medical note to avoid him having to train. Eventually, when the club's doctor flew out to Italy to medically assess him, the doctor agreed that Di Canio was indeed in no fit state to travel back due to acute concerns over his mental health. And to be honest, Wednesday can say what they want even now, but I can see why Di Canio felt so undervalued and anxious. We don't know what happens in a football club, but the internet is a wonderful place and it never forgets, and it's amazing what can be found in its darkest recesses. Wednesday, Wilson and Chairman Dave Richards can honestly say whatever they want, and I try and be positive, and I'm sure people improve and learn from their mistakes, but just 3 days before, Sheffield Wednesday had suffered a humiliating exit at the hands of Cambridge United in the League Cup. An article printed in the Mirror Group newspaper, I can't find any more information, but it's entitled "Italian Duds a Pasta Joke." I mean, Wilson's quoted as saying that all that fancy dance stuff is just, I won't stand for that kind of commitment. Two players, referring to Di Canio and Carboni, think they can just turn performances on and off like a tap, but it doesn't work like that. They are so self-indulgent and it's detrimental to the team. I saw enough of the team last season to know that that's why they struggled. And that's why we'll have a bad time this season if it carries on. I mean, that's why they struggled. We learned that Di Canio won the club's player of the season the year before. Digging out your players like that in public rarely goes well, and it's a really strange way of phrasing it. In Di Canio's autobiography, he said that Wilson started off the rant in the press, possibly this one, with "and as for those Italians." Chairman Dave Richards was pretty much no better either, to be honest, and following the push, he inferred that Di Canio had run the club's name through the mud from a whole reputation standpoint, And he also said that he'd also destroyed his own transfer value, and Wednesday would be left out on a limb because of that. This is a horribly transactional way to look at things, and football clubs need to acknowledge that their players are assets, but they are not inanimate beings. They're these people with hopes, fears, and expectations. And this characterization of Di Canio as this mentally unstable Di Canio, don't forget that part. This prima donna capable of exploding at any moment. And I don't think Wednesday realised that they were doing more than anyone else to reduce Di Canio's transfer value. When you compare with Manchester United and Alex Ferguson's treatment of Eric Cantona, which I did an episode on a few ago in the series, I mean, he kicked a fan. That was objectively far worse. And from Wednesday's handling of this, you actually have a model example of how a company shouldn't really treat an employee, let alone a human being, after a misdemeanour. It really did look like Di Canio's time in the Premier League was over, and as this pro-match card signed by Di Canio says, after raising his hands to a referee at the beginning of the 1998-99 season, it looks as if his time in English football is over. But as Di Canio has said, one crazy man gave another crazy man an opportunity, and West Ham manager Harry Redknapp saw an opportunity and had a cut price £1.5 million offer accepted. Even his estimated value on the back of the Pro Match card estimates it at £5 million. Di Canio's January transfer was in time for an inclusion in Merlin's Transfer Update Edition set, which was an add-on set to the 99 sticker album and the first we saw from Merlin. It was released separate packs, which I don't have any, but released as a smaller booklet type thing that included certain young players and transfers as well. It's a set that's reasonably well known, for at least this sticker's well known, because this is Steven Gerrard's first ever sticker, his rookie sticker. And here's an unstuck version of that sticker. You can see the numbers actually have U. So Gerrard is U42 for the update. Just go through the album a little bit here. So you can see this is Joe Cole's first sticker. Another excellent and well-loved Premier League player. But as you've probably guessed, it's U60, which is Di Canio's first West Ham sticker, which is my favourite in the album. And here it is there, U60. He's smiling in that one, and he's not smiling in his Merlin 99 Sheffield Wednesday sticker. So you can read into that what you will. But yeah, as I said, I really love Merlin 99. I think they are the best stickers. Perfect ratio, like I said. And let's have a little look at what they say in the bio for Paolo. Di Canio's sublime talents were too much for Harry Redknapp to resist. The skillful Italian could prove to be the bargain of the season. If the signing of Di Canio was a risk, then it was one that paid off handsomely. He seamlessly integrated into the West Ham side and helped the club finish a lofty fifth that year, still their record finish in the Premier League. And this is why, for me, to look at just medals and trophies can sometimes miss the point, and we should not forget the impact that some players can have on fans. I spoke about it in the Middlesbrough episode with Juninho, the little fella, and Cantona at Manchester United, but some players are just taken to the hearts of a club's fans, and they can elevate themselves to this godlike status. To so many West Ham fans, Di Canio, he stands up there with the true greats of the club, and I mean the true greats of the club, as a bona fide West Ham legend. This is even now, despite a huge fallout with Redknapp's successor Glenn Roeder in 2002-2003 that eventually ended in relegation for the Hammers. But in the period in between, Di Canio enraptured the die-hard and passionate West Ham faithful and dialed into the consciousness of so many Premier League fans in a way that very few players have. His winning goal at Old Trafford in 2001, where he outwitted Fabien Barthez' attempts to put him off to allow the Hammers to pull off a shock FA Cup upset and knock Manchester United out. There was also the moment when he won the FIFA Fair Play Award for catching the ball against Everton with the goalkeeper Paul Gerrard stricken and the goal at his mercy. This was Di Canio. He's unpredictable. He is, the word maverick is overused, and he is a maverick. But his finest moment was his incredible balletic scissor volley against Wimbledon. I mean, the one against Upton Park in 2000. For me, this is the best goal in Premier League history. And there are goals that look more striking, but his skill and timing to be able to make a perfect contact like that in mid-air is something that only a truly remarkable player can do. Not even just a remarkable player, an artist. He's an artist. And Di Canio is a fascinating character study, and we've barely scratched the surface of him. And this video is even one that's longer than my usual already. And I thank you for watching until this point, but I wanted to do the Di Canio video justice. He of course has this controversial association with fascism, and this isn't the platform to dive into that in depth. Maybe that can be an option in longer form live discussions on assigned topics in future. But what I will say though is that I think his interpretation of being a fascist is one of nationalistic pride and patriotism. I can see the origins of it, having been brought up in the Quarticciolo working class district of Rome, and I feel that Di Canio hasn't really reconciled within himself the connotations of the term and its link to intolerance and oppression. He does say in his autobiography that Mussolini fascinates him, but he does also say that he could never compromise his own morality to achieve his goals in the way that Mussolini did. With Di Canio, though, what I really feel he sees no racial component to it, and although I do feel he is slightly naive for not seeing how nationalism is often used as a proxy for racism, it's all very tricky to unpack it all. And with Di Canio, I just think he has this unflinching sense of patriotism and this desire to belong. And you see that with his clubs as well. I mean, when you had Di Canio as a player, you were also getting this ultra fan as well, your most fervent supporter. He's clearly no saint, and as we've seen with the whole pushing episode, he's clearly misstepped. But the abandonment of him by Sheffield Wednesday is one that I feel they should be deeply ashamed of. And I think the whole narrative of a work-shy and mentally unstable foreigner was plausible to the xenophobic English press, and it was one that Wednesday played up to. I mean, in life, forget football. When your friend, your teammate, your employee is in trouble in their darkest moment, the worst thing you can do, not in a position or role, but as a human, is just to kick someone when they're down. However disappointed you are with them, however much you're hurting, true strength and morality is not resorting to that. Wednesday kicked Di Canio hard, but in the end, they only ended up hurting themselves. Danny Wilson was sacked earlier on in the following season after a humiliating 8-0 loss against Newcastle, and they were relegated at the end of that season. Wednesday haven't been seen in the Premier League since, and Wilson never managed in the Premier League again. Di Canio rose like a phoenix and has left his own indelible mark in Premier League history forever. He conjured up moments on this visceral level, and for that, I and so many other people are forever in his debt. So thank you to Paolo Di Canio, and thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then consider checking out some of the other videos in the Premier League season by season series, which I'll leave a link to. But liking the video and subscribing to my channel would mean an awful lot, but the greatest thing you gave me was your time. And until next time, bye bye. See you soon.